Nobody teaches you this before 30. Nobody. What would your life look like right now if someone had handed you a system at 22? Think about that for a second. Not a get-rich scheme, not a six-figure side hustle. Just a quiet, honest system for where your money goes and why. Marcus didn't have that. At 24, he was making $48,000 a year at a logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. Not bad for his age. He was paying rent, covering his student loan minimums, grabbing Chipotle on the way home most nights. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't irresponsible. He just had no structure underneath any of it. Fast forward to 38. Marcus is a warehouse operations manager now, earning nearly double. But some mornings, he still opens his banking app with that same low-grade anxiety he had at 24. The number is different. The feeling isn't. What changed for Marcus, and what didn't, is exactly what we're going to talk about today. Because the gap between those two versions of Marcus isn't income. It's something quieter. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's what most money advice gets wrong. It treats your paycheck like a problem to be controlled. Cut this, restrict that. Track every dollar like a parole officer watching a parolee. And for about 3 weeks, maybe 4, people do exactly that. Then life happens. An unexpected car repair, a kid's school field trip, a rough Wednesday, and the whole thing collapses. The issue isn't willpower, it's architecture. According to Vanguard's How America Saves report, people with automatic saving structures, systems that work without daily decisions, accumulate nearly 2.5 times more wealth over a decade than people with similar incomes and no structure. Same money, different outcome. What I want to show you today is a framework I call the 4 chambers. It's borrowed from biology, not accounting. Your heart doesn't ask you to manage its rhythm every morning. It just runs. 4 chambers, each doing exactly one job, none of them competing with the others. Your money can work the same way. But here's what nobody mentions when they talk about money systems. The reason most of them stop working by February. The first chamber is what I call the root chamber. Roots don't show. Nobody photographs roots. But everything alive depends on them. In your finances, this is your essential spending. Housing, groceries, utilities, transportation, health insurance. The things that keep the tree standing. The number most researchers point to. Keep this chamber at or under 50% of your take-home pay. Not gross. What actually lands in your account after taxes. For Marcus at 24, this chamber was quietly running at 63%. Not because he was living extravagantly. His rent in Columbus was reasonable. But he had a car payment on a 2021 Hyundai he'd financed for 60 months, a gym membership he used twice in January, and 4 streaming subscriptions, 2 of which were technically his ex-girlfriend's accounts he'd never removed himself from. None of those felt like a crisis. Together, they were bleeding roughly $340 a month that Marcus never consciously decided to spend. Here's a useful practice. Once a quarter, open your last 3 months of bank statements and look only at recurring charges. Not the big purchases, the invisible ones. The Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances found that American households underestimate their monthly fixed expenses by an average of 22%. We're not careless. We're just not looking. Marcus did this exercise one Sunday afternoon. What he found in that spreadsheet surprised him and quietly changed everything that came after. The second chamber is the quiet chamber. This is the one most people skip entirely when they're young and spend their 30s wishing they hadn't. Think of it as groundwater. You can't see it. It doesn't earn you anything impressive. But when there's a drought, it's the only thing that keeps the soil from cracking. This is your emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of core living expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account, not your checking account, not the market. Somewhere accessible, somewhere boring, somewhere safe. Marcus and his wife, Elena, learned this the hard way. In 2021, their furnace died in February. In Ohio, repair estimate $3,200. They had $800 in savings. What followed wasn't a financial crisis in the dramatic sense. It was slower than that. 3 months of credit card minimum payments, a missed increase to his 401k, a conversation that kept circling back to the same uncomfortable place. We make good money. Why does it always feel like this? If you're in your late 30s right now and you don't have this yet, you're not behind. You're just starting from an honest place. That's worth something. Here's why this chamber matters more than most people realize at 22. Without it, every financial emergency becomes a financial crisis. A $900 brake repair isn't a setback. It becomes credit card debt at 24% annual percentage rate. It becomes a missed 401k contribution. It becomes 6 months of recovery from a 3-day problem. Fidelity's research suggests that households with 3 or more months of liquid reserves are significantly less likely to carry revolving credit card debt, not because they earn more, but because they have room to absorb shocks without borrowing against tomorrow. The goal here is simple: 15% of your take-home, automated, every payday, before you see it. The third chamber is where the quiet money lives, not the money you're watching. The money that's working while you sleep, while you drive to work, while you're at your kid's soccer game on a Saturday morning. This is your long-term wealth building, your 401k, your Roth individual retirement account, your index funds. The chamber most people either ignore until their 40s or overthink into paralysis. Let me stop here, because what I'm about to say goes against almost everything financial YouTube will tell you. You don't need to understand this chamber deeply to use it well. You need to start it early, automate it, and then, this is the hard part, leave it alone. Here's what that looks like practically. If your employer offers a 401k match, contribute at minimum enough to capture the full match. That is not optional. According to Vanguard, the average employer match is roughly 4.4% of salary. Leaving it on the table is the equivalent of turning down a portion of your paycheck. Beyond that, a Roth individual retirement account, if you qualify based on income, lets your money grow completely tax-free. The 2024 contribution limit is $7,000 annually. That's roughly $583 a month, or whatever you can manage. 20% of take-home, directed here, automated, invisible to your daily life. The fourth chamber doesn't get talked about enough. The breath chamber, the room where your money is allowed to just be enjoyed. 10 to 15% of take-home set aside in a separate account for whatever actually refuels you. A weekend trip to see your parents, a nice dinner that wasn't planned, a book you've been wanting, concert tickets. Whatever reminds you why any of this is worth doing. This isn't a reward for good behavior, it's structural. A system with no room for joy is a system that will eventually be abandoned, usually right when you need it most. Marcus calls his the no-guilt account. His wife calls it finally. So why do so many people who follow every money rule still feel like something's missing? This chamber is usually the answer. Here's the thing about the 4 chambers that took Marcus the longest to understand. The system doesn't work because the percentages are right. It works because the money stops requiring daily decisions. Each dollar already has a chamber. Each chamber already has a job. And none of them argue with the others. That's the real gift of building this before 30. Not the compound interest, though that's real, and it's significant. It's that you stop living in financial reactivity. You stop making money decisions from a place of anxiety, scarcity, or guilt. You start making them from a place that feels, honestly, a lot like quiet confidence. Remember Marcus at 38, opening his banking app with that same low-grade anxiety. He told me recently, the app looks different now, same 4 numbers. Different relationship with all of them. If today's the day you want to start building your own money management system, here's the only thing I'd ask you to do tonight. Open your bank statement from last month, just 1 month. Add up everything that recurs automatically, subscriptions, memberships, transfers. Write the total down. That number is your starting point for the root chamber. That's it, just that. If you know someone in their 20s who's trying to figure out money for the first time, or someone in their 40s who's starting over, send them this video. Not because they need to be fixed, because sometimes one framework, at the right moment, changes the whole trajectory. And next time, The one habit that old money families teach their children that almost nobody in the middle class ever hears. It's not what you think.